What is the worst advice that you have ever received?
I mean, you gotta be a little more specific. Like,
just you can say something as a kid, something a few days ago, something at the beginning of the year. What is the worst advice that you have ever received?
I don't think it's the worst, but I think it's the first that comes to mind. After you had a few and somebody gives you one more and they tell you good after you try to be like, nah, I think I've reached my limit. And because you know yourself, you know your body. And then somebody just totally like encourage you and says like, nah, you got this, you good. Like, trust me, and those are the last words you hear until you like go to a whole nother place. I just feel like that's something everybody could, resonate with.
Yeah, I feel like that.
Yeah. For me, man, it's like probably, like and it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily like direct advice. It was more so implied from like being around like the homies or whatever. Is not being like real about how you feel in a certain situation, like whether it be not really showing your feelings towards like a chick that you're interested in, or not really being like, hey, this isn't cool. You know what I'm saying? Whatever y'all doing right now, it's not cool. It may be popular, right? But it's not really cool. Like, just not being real in a situation, be like, nah, that's not what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's what popped in my mind.
And something I can actually caveat off of what Caesar just said. Just being with the homies is kind of like your influencers. So people that influence you, they can go in a negative way, even though it's not the popular decision to make. They can give you that type of advice. They say, yeah, don't do this, don't do that. You say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take it that route, but you gotta learn the hard way, because that's when you actually start going to followers.
Joshua?
I think I could say something about, no, for sure. I feel like, so this person told me to go with my gut. And I was just like, well, no, I don't want to go with my gut, because going with my gut is more so just responding to off an impulse for me. And I was just like, well, if I go with my gut and I don't think about it, then I might go with my gut and make a wrong decision, and that decision can, send me somewhere I don't want to be at. So I think the worst advice that I've gotten, actually, that was yesterday. Go with your gut. So I'm not gonna go with my gut. And I didn't listen to that, because that's good for me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in to another episode of Take a Space Podcast. I am your host, Leah, and today I am joined with my brothers and my cousin. We have Calvin, Lewis, Joshua, and my cousin Theo. Thank y'all so much for being on. We're just gonna go through, and they're gonna introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves before we get into our topics today. So we'll start with CJ, and we'll go down the line in order of age.
So yes, hello. My name is Calvin. I am the oldest, I guess, male descendant of our grandfather. I'm currently working in operations. I pretty much manage the operations of a dental practice here in my area. So that's me.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Theo, everyone's cousin up on here. Originally from San Francisco, but now in New Orleans. And I do social media marketing by day, and at night I like to host different events. So some of the events I cover, Pelicans basketball, as well as a Cycle for Survival. And just happy to be on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lewis from California, and I'm in the Marines. I'm actually a Marine recruiter over in Florida area. Been in the Marines for a little over, say, almost 11 years.
What's up, everybody? I'm Josh. Currently, I am a recruiter for Emergency Roadside Assistance Company. I go around state and city hiring and recruiting guys to do emergency roadside assistance. I'm a musician and also working on some musician degree to get my stuff together. I guess that makes sense, right? That kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So we come from a big family, which I've talked about many, many times on this show, and we all have handled this year in vastly different ways. What is one thing, because there has been a lot of changes going on this year, what is one thing that has kept you grounded this year?
Just anybody?
Anybody?
For me, it has to be kind of my spiritual practice. Going on 4 years ago now, I started practicing a traditional West African religion called Ifa. And it's something that has really kept me very just centered in who I am, right? Being very sure in who I am and how I move throughout the world. And with 2020, right, it's been so unique, right? So strange, so different. Really having that center and that focus, something to really focus on, has helped me stay balanced and stay true to who I am.
Okay.
For me, I would say, you good?
Oh no, go for it.
Okay. For me, I would say work. I wouldn't say I'm a workaholic, but work. I love the grind. I love to, look on new challenges. As my current duty right now is actually a marine recruiter. It can be very, very challenging, talk to each individuals, to see, how the Marine Corps actually helped them. And the time right now, it has made a lot of people second guess a lot of things in life. And, as everyone should, with this whole, COVID that's going on. Right. So to keep myself grounded is, just to maintain my main goals in life. And that's actually, to reach certain accomplishments I'm doing right now. So overall, probably say I'm thankful, just thankful for what we have, appreciate what we have. Because even though everyone says 2020 is not the year, but this made a lot of people realize what we do have and who we do have in our lives. And that's what, reminds me to stay grounded.
That's true.
I think for me, it's just celebrating the wins a little bit harder this time around, whether they're big wins or small wins. What Lewis is alluding to, like I can relate to him because when you're on that work grind, you're just constantly thinking about what's next and what's the biggest thing that you could tackle and go after, and then what comes after that. And I think this year for sure has definitely, knocked me on my tail a little bit and said like, hey, like you're doing great stuff every day, whether it's related to your professional life, your personal life, you name it. And that needs to be celebrated. So just finding little ways which is hard because I'm very competitive. I'm very stubborn and proud, for in a good way and a bad way. But I think just trying to be mindful of celebrating the accomplishments and really cherishing those, especially when days look a little more bleak than normal. Just hold on to those and be proud.
I can definitely say that I can agree with all three of you when I say life, health, spiritual, mindness, independency, balance, stability. One thing that's really kept me grounded is God. This time around last year, it's been difficult, 2020, new challenges, so to be able to take on new challenges and keep God at the center of everything, being able to have a solid foundation for me, to that's what I use, to keep pushing me forward. So, going from state in different cities, not knowing nobody, and having to be by yourself and really depend on what you know and the things that you've learned through the years, and different environments coming across different peoples different ethnic backgrounds. They say the Black Lives Matter here in Portland, Oregon. It's really scary. So I would say that really being rooted with God has been my biggest, cheer on for me this year to keep me sane and focused. Mm-hmm.
Did you just agree with yourself at the end of your statement? That's such a
Yeah,
Southern
because
thing.
it only
He said,
no, if nobody else agrees with me, I'll say it again to myself, and be like, all right, great.
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, that's actually good because he believes in what he says, and that's confidence right there, and that's true confidence right there, and then you should. So that's why you can make it, you can reach it to a lot of people. I do agree with everything you just said.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
So
Is there another one? Because he agreed with me.
oh,
do we have another?
it's not another one.
Yes. Give
My
us
man-
Of course,
inside your heart. Yeah.
Of course,
My man was straight up like, "Are the doors are now open?
Yeah.
Will there be one?"
Yes.
What do we want?
We'd like to extend the right hand of fellowship.
Yeah.
So in the sisters episode, we talked a lot about the way we grew up and kind of went down memory lane, and we're not going to go all the way down memory lane for this episode, but I wanted to know how, since we come from a large family, how has that impacted, if it has impacted, decisions that you've made in your life around the age of either moving out, growing up, like when you found out, like, oh snap, like I am a full-on adult here. How do I make these decisions? Like, how did coming from a large family like impact those decisions, if it did?
I think coming from a big family really impacted from such a young, early age for me, because the lessons, that were taught were never really taken into consideration what you would face into real life. The different kinds of people that you would walk across and meet. So to have like what 9 different personalities in the house at one time, and seeing how 9 different people think, really taking into different habits and different ideas of other people. So for me, not listening to what everybody says, but trying to figure out the right person to listen to for the right person at the right time. I think for me, because each and every single last one of my family members has something to give at the right moment. Now, we may not always agree with each other, but somebody has either been through that situation already and has learned from it. So it's learning who to listen to and what to listen to, because I'm not going to listen to nobody that ain't been through it. So I'm going to listen to somebody else that has. So, I think that's one of the biggest things that I take growing up with the family. Mm-hmm. I agree with myself again.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I gave you 1 point. All right.
You're such an old person.
Mm.
Well, my situation, was a little different because, like, y'all were in the East Bay. For those that are listening, like, we're all Bay Area based, right? Like, we're all from the Bay Area or have Bay Area roots. Y'all were in the East Bay and I was in San Francisco. So whenever it was me coming to y'all's crib, it felt like the fun house because there's so many of y'all and there's so much going on and it's just one of me. And then of course coming back home, it's just my mom and I, so it was always, even if I didn't show it enough back then, like thinking back on it, it was always kind of a cool treat to like either go over to y'all's crib and, the fellas, we're playing video games or we're playing basketball in your driveway. There's music blasting inside the house that you could hear on the outside of the house. CJ's there. It's dope because it's like we're a little closer to age, but now I got somebody that I can talk to about some stuff, when we can. So it was dope. Or when y'all came over to, grandma and granddaddy's house in San Francisco, it's like we don't have as big of a space, but it was cool because it's like, this is what it feels like to be part of a big family. You know, for me, like, yeah, I have my sister, but she's in Seattle. You know, I have my other sisters in Vegas. So it's like, oh, so this is what it's like. You know, like it once y'all leave, it definitely hits because you're like, oh man, like, is this what it's like for them every day? Because this is a lot of activity, and I don't think I bring, as energetic as I am, I don't think I can match what, like Josh was saying, I can't match what everybody's doing because everybody's doing something. So it was unique to always kind of see that, be a part of it, tap into it when I could, and just kind of learn each and every little thing from y'all when we had the chance to do it.
Yeah. So for me, it was everybody has their unique experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was different because I didn't necessarily grow up in the house with all of you guys. So I came from a situation where it was my mom and then my older sister, right? So I was the baby of that family unit, right? Then I would come and visit, and then I'm one of the oldest, right? So it's like this weird dynamic that I had where it was like, kind of get catered to on one side, and then boom, when I'm on the other side, it's like, no, you're one of the leaders. You're, what I'm saying, you're a grown up, damn near, right? You got to kind of be, modeling certain things. You know what I mean? So it was just very different. In terms of like kind of how that developed in my personality, like I've always been kind of to myself. Like I'm a very like um, closed off. I wouldn't necessarily say is accurate, but in a certain sense, closed off, right? Because I'm just like kind of always in my own world. And then I give different shades of myself depending on what situation I'm in. So I've definitely noticed that about myself, like, going through high school and, having different scenarios and then going into college and seeing how I react there. Right. So it always kind of makes me go back to that time of really when you're younger, feeling out these different relationships and understanding how you interact with one another, right? And having so many younger siblings, it's like, oh, I can bounce my personality off of all these different people, right? And then there's certain mirrors that you get back in those relationships, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then, touching on that relationship aspect, as you get older, you understand that family, yes, it's who you have blood connections to, but it's also, it takes work, right? So each sibling, right, each cousin, I have to work at this relationship, right? It's not just a given, like, okay, with blood, just what is what it is. And I mean, maybe some relationships are like that up until a certain point where it's like, okay, are we going to make an effort here? Right. So it's like
Right.
valuing that effort that each person is able to put in, or maybe not up until this point, but giving them that freedom to know, okay, tomorrow's a new day. Maybe we can, establish that relationship a little bit later. So lots of different lessons.
It's wild. I've never ever pictured you as a baby brother until just this moment. Like
Right.
it
That's
didn't
so
click to me
weird.
until just now. I'm like, a baby brother? Oh, okay. But
It's wild, right?
it makes some things
Not
make
him.
sense.
Yeah. Oh man.
What about you, Lewis?
No, I was still a little bit stunned. You seen his big brother, but also, no, I'll move. Oh yeah, I'll move on. But yeah, big brother. Wow. Yeah, I never would have thought. As growing up, we come from a large family, and majority sisters, and each and everyone had a role growing up. From the oldest all the way down to the youngest. The oldest always took care of the younger ones, try to keep us out of trouble or try to protect themselves. But but I ain't throw no names on the bus, but yeah. But yeah, each time, they're given that role and they have to, display that role, in the family where you're the oldest or you're the youngest. Now, as I tend to grow, I start to realize that I take a piece of that each role for myself, because at certain times, I have to take care of myself. And I say, okay, so how was the oldest, taking care of me? So, and then I think about, okay, how am I going to take care of me now? And how was the youngest take care of themselves? So like Joshua, I'll say Joshua for example. With Joshua going, he's the youngest brother. And so he's the individual that keeps everyone on their toes because you need that. And so it shows us like his is like real reality. That's what it is. The boy, you like the life of the party. You need that. And so that's something that, you know, I take with that. So it just like a little piece that would develop me as an individual. That's how I actually display that my personality in everyday life. That displays who I am. Because I read you know, a few books. I forgot the name of it, but depends on where you are in your siblings and like on the order. That's how your personality is going to develop over time.
Right, right.
If that makes sense. So
Yeah.
if the youngest, right, you're going to develop a certain type of personality. It may not mimic some from another different family than the youngest, but you're going to have similar characteristics. And so since I was a, you know, oldest boy in that family, right, I developed certain characteristics, and it helped me understand young ladies a little bit better because I had so many sisters with so many personalities. So many personalities. So many personalities. But that's why I would say my patience grew even more, you know, just based off of that. And then having, you know, like Theo, you didn't really seem like a cousin at all. You seem more like a brother. You didn't seem really much like a cousin. You just, you know, oh, that's a brother. He lives over, you know, across the bridge, pretty much, right? So that right there, I took certain characteristics from you as well, and that's what helped. That's what helped me grow until to this day.
That's really dope. Yeah, that is true. It's been written a lot about and studied that depending on what your pecking order is in the family, those are the kind of traits that you develop and display. And so that's why I say that the leadership skills that I have acquired, being one of the oldest in the household, is my superpower because I can use my big voice if I need to use my big voice to corral a crowd or whatever I need to do. But some people may say it's bossy, but hey, it's great leadership skills. You want this person on your team. You don't want to go against this person. As men, as Black men in these United States of America, what are some responsibilities that you feel you hold? All of you are in different states, in different spaces. And with everything going on, we had racial inequality marches. We had marches for the lives of Black men and women. We had, you know, there was this big thing between, oh, well, men don't support women. Well, women don't support men. What do you feel is your societal responsibility? Or do you feel like you have a societal responsibility?
Yeah, the responsibility is there for me for sure. You know, just walking through this world, through, you know, this country, being, you know, a Black man, so many scenarios you're, you know, put in situations where kind of have to be like that voice or that representative for like your whole race, or, you know what I'm saying, your whole culture at times, right? And it can
Mhm.
be, you know, overwhelming at times, right? So I haven't ever been overwhelmed by it, right? But I recognize it, right? And that weight is there. So you want to, you know, speak properly, you know, make sure that you're putting a good face out there, being a good representative, right? But then sometimes you just want to like let your hair down and just be like, yo, I'm an individual. Like this is me. I'm not like that representative. But it's like you can let your hair down when you're in when you're familiar company, right? So like whenever I'm in a situation with mainly Black people, it feels so relaxing because I'm able to just be, you know, Calvin. I'm just able to be me. Like, and even, you know, taking that another level deeper when I'm just with the family, okay, I'm able to just be CJ,
Yeah.
right? So like all these different layers, right, they start to come down, like that I kind of talked about earlier, right? All those layers come down, so it's like a sense of being at home and being at peace when I'm around, different groups of people that I'm really close to, as opposed to having to put on, the mask, if you will, of representing all Black people, when I'm out here in the world. So, yeah, that's my experience.
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
Some people feel like they don't have a societal responsibility because they're just themselves. And I think that it's interesting that that you say, and of course, I think it has to do with upbringing. It wasn't recently. You talked a little bit about code switching and being able to speak standard English when you're around mixed company. And I didn't realize until maybe 3 weeks ago, my code switching worked the other way. I typically speak standard English, and I had to learn how to speak slang in like middle school. And to this day, I am still learning how to speak in a more relaxed manner so that when I am around, like, I honestly don't feel as comfortable at a dominoes game as I would feel in like corporate America. And so it's weird. It feels backwards, like as opposed to what you said that you experienced. But that's something that I was like, oh, that's why that didn't really work like that. I got it now. But it's just, that relaxing feeling, like, because I just learned how to play spades kind of virtually.
Oh, you didn't have to put that out here.
Yeah, I just learned.
An adopted sister. I don't know what.
Nobody wanted to show me. Nobody
She didn't mean that, guys.
Look,
she can still edit this.
Look,
Please edit that out.
look, I own it. Nobody has invited me to a game. Nobody wants to be my partner. We play dominoes. I know how to play dominoes, but like, no, I'm not. First of all, spades is a very violent game. Okay, that is violence. I don't need that brought up on me.
It's real. It's real.
But societal responsibility.
Yeah. I'll add that, I will never forget who I am. I'll never forget what I look like, where I came from. I will never forget that. It doesn't matter who I'm with or, who I'm around. Because at the end of the day, I just want to be treated as a human being. I do. I just want to be treated as a human being, as if I'll show the next respect to the next person. Yes, this is, a tough time. It's been a tough one, not just this year, but it's a tough time for people that look like us too. It's been a tough time, but now it's just being even more broadcasted. So the thing about it is how you gonna carry yourself as an individual, as a human being, how you gonna carry yourself. I am very cautious of what goes around, where I'm at and whatnot too, because some people may have bad intentions, even though the individual that's smiling in your face. But you should never forget, and that's just me, you should never forget where you came from and who you are as an individual. But I'm happy that in the route I'm going, and I want to represent my last name. I'll put it like that.
No, I think you hit it, man. It's just, lately my girlfriend Christy and I, we talk a lot about legacy and what that means. And, if legacy is the overarching topic, then I think what's right underneath it is, generational wealth, how you improve on your community that you're a part of, and just when it's all said and done and our time is over on this earth, like the people that we leave behind, as well as just the community we leave behind, like, is it in a better place than what it was? So how do we achieve that? Because, even though these are some big questions, and we've studied some standouts. We've studied the standouts like an MLK or Malcolm X or Rosa Parks. So, we get that, but these are still not necessarily tools that are given to you when you're in school. These, whether we're learning about credit, whether we're learning about financial literacy, whether we're learning about healing and just being at peace emotionally. What does that really take? What does that really look like? When you tell somebody I love you, yes, that sounds wonderful, but what can that really mean? What does that consist of? Like CJ, like what you're saying, that work, like, it's great to say these things, but what is the work that comes with it? So I just think about legacy. That's what the responsibility is like, when it's all said and done, have you been able, or at least were you trying to make things better? And and if you are, then I think you're on the right track. And I feel like a lot of people are in their stage in life, and they're going about it in ways that they know how. So that's when I think about pressure, that's what I think about next is, okay, legacy. How do we make it better?
Mm-hmm.
Does that put you in a place of like wanting to have kids and build? Or are you more so looking at having something to leave to the existing family structure?
All the above.
Okay.
All the above. I mean, because when I think about the current family structure, it's like, all right, well, I need to text more. I need to communicate more. I need to, be a little bit more vulnerable. I need to. This is a great start. Having this type of medium where we can talk about it, but actually share it with folks. Because folks could see us and have no idea like what's inside of us or what we've been through. And then when I think about, future children, it's like, what were some of those things that I wish my dad told me that maybe he didn't get the chance to because we just missed the opportunities, or even my mom didn't tell me because at the time her focus was different, was elsewhere. She was trying to knock out school, So it's like, if you have a parent trying to knock out school, there might be some lessons you're going to miss. You'll see it in their action, but they might not have the time to really sit down with you and tell you, unless something of a large magnitude happens in your upbringing, or something in that public space is happening that you have to talk about, But so when I do think about kids, it's like, man, like, you can't be too hard, you can't be a Joe Jackson, but you understand a Joe Jackson. But you gotta, but how can I sit down with my kids and let them know, like, hey, it's okay to cry. This is what being vulnerable means and how it helps. As opposed to just saying man up and brush it up and brush it off and things like that. Like, no, it's cool to cry. Sometimes I gotta remind myself, but it's hard because I still tell myself, hey, man up. Like what you crying about? Ain't nobody got time for that. Like, no, make time.
Right.
Christy said that, make the time. So it's all part of the legacy. So that's what I think more about these days. And I hope that's my contribution to family, myself, and society as a whole.
I mean, you said it. You said it right there, man. It's that legacy. It's building that foundation, and continuing building on top of that foundation, like setting that right example, especially for the community too.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you guys are saying right now because I think it couldn't have been much perfect timing to say, what do you guys think about change? On Sunday, I had the opportunity to give a sermon, and the topic of my sermon was called "Think About Change," and the difference and the things that are going on in today's culture of society and how things are moving and how we're getting older, and we're being almost forced to get where mom and dad are, where auntie and uncle are, and the maturity level and everything has to come up, and we see the consistency of how much you know things are changing. You know what I mean? And I think that if this is an excellent start and an excellent beginning of a change, that we can try to implement with other people, coming from different backgrounds and seeing how we all weren't able to relate to each other at one point. But now, because we've all gone through so much and because we've all experienced so much, even as a black man, with a dedication to society, me coming here to Portland, I mean, it hasn't been an easy walk, knowing and experiencing racism really on a first firsthand when the guy got shot out here in Portland. I was there actually when it happened. I have Snapchat footage on my phone of when it happened. Knowing that times are changing. So, are we going to let it affect for the good or the worse? I mean, if you think about it, I mean, especially with COVID-19, we're coming back to where the village is really going to start taking care of the children. If you think about it, the mom and dad and the sisters or brothers are the teachers of each other. They're responsible for one another. So I think that um, it's the change, so that the responsibility that I feel that I can contribute to this family and to others is loyalty and dedication of hoping for the best, or not hoping, but doing the best that we can to motivate each other and encourage one another. And just like Theo said, it is okay to cry, because sometimes that's all you can do. When you're in a situation, you just gotta let it out. Anger. I know anger very, very well. Anger, like I said, was my best friend at one point. But knowing and understanding that a change had to come in my life in order for my relationships and my family with you all to become better and stronger, so I had to make the change, and let down self and be able to put myself in a better place. So owning responsibility to the society, I feel that's what I contribute, and like I said, I hope I'm contributing that as well to you guys.
Nice.
Hmm.
No doubt.
Josh, man, you touched on a lot of good things there. But one thing that really kind of stuck out to me was that anger piece, right? So I know kind of just growing up, like from my perspective, I've had to deal with that anger, right? And I've seen some things, but I'm curious to know, from y'all's perspective, Lewis and Theo, like, have you noticed anger like in your life, like being something that you had to overcome? And if so, like, how did you overcome it?
Mm. So you're saying anger, something that that triggers us, right?
Yeah, yeah. So let me
Yes.
let me just kind of talk
Yeah.
about me real quick. Let me just kind of give mine, and maybe just that might spark something. Like, so just growing up, right? I would notice like I would get into fights at school, right? And like
Mm,
I would sometimes just kind of black out, right? And like,
mm,
I could have potentially hurt people if my mom hadn't sat me down and been like, your anger is an issue that you're going to have to resolve, right? And you have to think before you just respond, right? And being a young, boy, that it takes time. You have to hear that over and over again before something in your head just clicks and says, okay, I really hurt somebody. Like, so for me, it was probably when I was around like 11 or 12, I had gotten into a fight, right? And I was just really angry. And, I almost hurt this kid. And I didn't really want to hurt the kid, but it made me just kind of go home and get like very focused on, okay, what happened, right? What was the steps that led up to that? And I knew that I couldn't let myself get that angry, anymore. And of course, going through life, you get your limits are tested, right? But it's
mm,
always goes back to that lesson that I had, like, okay, I can't let this get too far, or else I could hurt somebody else or hurt myself. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So I knew that I had to kind of rein that anger in. And I'm just curious if you guys have had that a similar experience with anger and having to overcome it like that.
Absolutely. I think for me, I used to lean on anger as motivation to try to do good in school, try to advance professionally. I mean, you name it, try to anything where I thought it was going to push me forward. I would lean into it. If that means working a little bit more than I necessarily need to, I'll do it. And then, your mind plays tricks on you because then you're thinking, well, if I don't do it, somebody else is getting it.
Mm,
So what people don't tell you, especially if you watch sports, because sports, it's funny, especially like that recent MJ documentary, right, with The Last Dance,
yeah.
where everybody laughs when he says like, and I took it personally. You know what I mean? And people are
Yeah.
like, oh my God, yes, he's the greatest. But
Right.
I would have loved if, and you kind of saw it in the documentary
Yeah.
too, like anger, no one really like CJ, like you said, your mom, like no one really emphasizes how destructive anger can be and how much energy it takes away from you. Like, yeah, it can fuel you for such a short period of time, but what happens when that fuel no longer works? Then what do you lean on? And you could be the most talented person in the room, but you've been leaning on anger for so many years. So it's, for me, it's trying to understand, and still to this day, like trying to process it, trying to learn it, that, you can't allow anger to drive you. Yes, it might have been something that helped you, got out of certain situations and helped you to advance, which is fantastic, but it's not always going to be that, that one trick in your pocket that you can just pull out when times get rough. You got to adapt. You have to change. You have to understand what works in certain scenarios and what doesn't, because anger is not always going to help you win. And I hate to say it, being who we are, especially in this country,
especially
especially with my man in Portland, no, but anywhere, anywhere, just like it's going to hold you back more than it'll push you forward. And I think the quicker you get that, the easier it will be to let it go. But it's hard, especially when you're so used to letting it drive you. It's so hard.
I would say
I think that I can
you hit it as well. You hit it as well too. Anger was something I learned, very young, but at the same time, I had to learn how to channel it. Anger can be used as motivation. It can be used like just to start the car, but it's just to start car. That's what the initials for. Just start the car. But what's going to get you over across? What's going to get you over there? If you hold on anger so much, that's so draining. It's just so, it drains so much out of you, into where you're sitting with yourself. Why am I so angry? And later in life, I start to realize, what can I do in order to counter before I even get angry? And so I start, what I was saying before, staying busy, working on the grind, stay in this and that. Find a middle ground. Find like some type of balance. Because something that's going to trigger you, it's going to happen regardless, whether somebody does it intentionally or they didn't know about it. But at the same time, that's what I still have to learn, that to stay patient. That's what I'm very, very patient. I don't know if how I was raised taught me how to deal with anger, or just that growth over time. Theo, you just said it, man. Just like the people who look like us. Right, we have a lot of ways to be angry about, but how long can we stay angry? When can we actually start taking action in a positive way to stop letting history repeat itself? With that, and that's something. Anger, it can go either way. It can go either way. It can be very, very negative impact, something that you regret for the rest of your life, or it can be that change to actually start that car. And after that, you just use that as starting the car. You just move forward with that and never look back at it.
Was that anger? So this is a 2-part question. Was the anger that you all have experienced, and it sounds like you all have tried to look at it in a different way or tried to counter it in a way, was it rooted in something else, or were you just angry at situations?
It'll be a little bit different. You can get angry almost on anything. Just wake up wrong side of bed. But you shouldn't let that determine your type of day. I can be angry, Warriors, up 3-1, right? I can be angry about that. It's frustration, but that's something you shouldn't hold on to. But it's a really deeper meaning behind that. It's a deeper meaning behind it because you're not really angry at that very moment. Something else triggered that.
That's what I'm asking. Have you found that anger is rooted in sadness or bitterness or loneliness or missed opportunities or frustration in other aspects of life? Like, how have you done that work to figure out what is the root cause of that anger? Or are you still on that journey to really get to the bottom of it?
I feel like well, for me, that answer would be my bad. See,
No.
all right. Well, I feel like for me, growing up through the years, I think it's been a little bit of everything that you've said. But I think the biggest one of it all is lack of understanding yourself. Well, excuse me, lack of understanding myself. You know, different situations and not knowing how everything happen, not knowing how everything goes all the time, and not always fully understanding the why and always wanting the answer. You know, no matter what the situation was. You know, getting mad at the littlest things and still don't know why you mad. You know, for me, didn't even know why I was mad. You know, I felt like for myself, let me talk about me. I felt like I was misunderstood. You know, I felt like nobody didn't want to take the time to listen to me. I felt like nobody wanted to hear me out. I felt like no matter what I did, no matter how great it could have been, it was always going to end wrong for me. So, in other words, many would say I played victim. Many would say that, oh, well, he always saying it's somebody else's fault instead of his. Well, but what about what I said? How did I feel? Instead of, I think people coming to me and asking me, what's wrong? I didn't feel the sincerity of somebody saying, well, you know what, Josh, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? You know, why do you feel this way? Why instead of and for me, it was always I felt like everybody was coming at me, and it felt that way. People say, when the shoe's on the other foot, and you're not the one that's in the position to get it, and when nobody feels like it, or when you feel like your point isn't getting across, or whatever the case may be, and that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to get my point across. That was my
Mm-hmm.
biggest problem. I always wanted to try to prove myself. Not knowing and understanding that. Well, guess what? People have an option and a decision to believe you or not, and it's
Mm-hmm.
all about how you. Tamara told me the biggest thing that I take with me right now, and she said it not too long ago, we have to think about the reaction and the response. And as soon as I would feel some kind of way, I just react. So impulsive, so impulsive. I didn't care about who I was hurting. You know what I mean? Well, as long I got hurt, you know what? Everybody else got to feel it. But then growing up, I let my anger drive me to a place I didn't want to go. You guys know. I went to jail for the first time, and my anger built up so much. I didn't realize the magnitude of my decisions that I was going to make. By the fight, this one very fight, the first offer they offered me as a black man, mind you, never been to jail before, never, not one time. You know what I mean? 5 years, 8 months, two strikes as a black man. Yeah, I'm young. I was 20, 25. I was 25. I just turned 25 at the time, or 24. I was 24, about to turn 25. And the first deal that they offered me was 5 years, 8 months, and two strikes right off the bat. Had to fight my case for a year and a half. But because of my decision that I decided to make to let my anger to drive me, that was my breaking point. Unfortunately, I had to go to jail for 6.5 months. Thank God, it didn't last longer. You know what I mean? Because being in an environment where you don't want to be at, having somebody to tell you to get up when you don't want to be at, I think one of my brothers shared with me his version of when he went through a traumatic time in a similar experience. He said that it was one of the scariest things. He said in verbatim, I've never bawled before in my life until I got there. And when I tell you, Josh, it was the work for the first 3 hours that I was there. He didn't stay too long, but for the first 3 hours that he was there, it sucked. So me knowing that my anger was driving me to a place and it was killing relationships. That was the biggest of it all. I think that was the biggest one for me. I don't mean to take too much time on it, but this is a good one. But I it killed relationships for me with my anger. You know what I mean? I didn't see the true gold in one because I always saw bronze or silver. You see what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the value in somebody when they were actually trying to tell me that that skillet was too hot for me to touch with my bare hands, wait for it to cool down. You know what I mean? I didn't want to listen, but it took experience. It took for me to go through it, and when I tell you it was all worth it because it made me the man that I am today to be able to sit amongst great people like yourselves, you know, and be able to share this opportunity to say that, you know what, anger, man, I had to let it go. I had to change it. I had to change it. And I think that you all can see what the old one used to be and the new one that's up and coming. Now, I'm not saying that I'm any different, but I'm just still minor tweaks here and there, just minor adjustments, in each and every aspect of my life. You know what I mean? Knowing when to go and knowing when not to go. Calvin said code switching. That's so yeah. Code switching and knowing when to go, not being so aggressive, the reaction and the response. Yeah. That's good with me.
All about those minor tweaks along the way, man. That's all we can do.
Yeah. All it takes is one good decision to lead to another good decision, lead to another good decision. And that's all we have is right now to
Yeah,
make those good decisions. But thank you so much
facts.
for sharing that. Anyone else for like if you found what your anger was rooted in or is rooted in that you are, or if you're on that journey, or if you just like, look, I don't really want to deal with that.
For me, it was it was a journey, right? Of course, everybody's on a journey, but when I was younger, I just knew that it was something destructive. That anger, right, was destructive, and I had to kind of push it aside and do whatever. But after a while, you can't just push something to the side. You got to deal with it.
Right.
So as I get older, right, I'm becoming more aware of who I really am and my triggers and all that kind of stuff. I really, did some personal work and figured out where that came from, and it really kind of roots as most things do in childhood, right? And growing up having certain perspectives, right, being a child and not understanding why certain relationships are working out and why certain relationships didn't work out, right, and why what I mean, just being candid, why y'all had like, to me from the outside, looking in, was like this, great cookie cutter life, right? But not being able to, necessarily have that with my mom and, saying my dad and have that unit in the house, right? So all that, leads to, it can lead to anger, and it did in my case, right? So healing from that and understand, like, okay, I as a child can't dictate what two grown-ups relationship is going to be, right? It is what
Mhm.
it is, and you just got to kind of learn from it, and then say grow with it, and looking at the bigger pictures, I have all these great relationships, right, that I can then dive into and say depend upon, and help carry me throughout all the trials and tribulations of my life. So it's just really kind of doing that work and recognizing where it comes from, right? Getting, talking to people, right? It's not just, oh, I just meditated and all that came to me. No, it's me, having trusted mentors and, spiritual advisors who I could go to and be like, hey, I'm dealing with this in my life. And then them asking the questions and peeling back the layers of the onion for me to really have those aha moments and be like, okay, that's what that's from. That's why I
Mhm.
feel this way. Okay, and then you heal from that, and then that's no longer a trigger. It no longer makes you angry. You know what I mean? And then you move on to the next thing, right? Like Joshua said, it's just making these little tweaks here and there, each step of the journey, right? Trying to get better and better, better, so that you can have that legacy that Theo's talking about, where you're leaving something behind, like you're leaving a better self of yourself as a model to those around you, right? Building
Right.
those relationships and healing those relationships for a better tomorrow.
I always say therapy and Jesus. Therapy, Jesus, and self work. I'm telling you.
Man,
Therapy is amazing. If y'all haven't been, y'all have to go to therapy. It is, but you got to find the right therapist. That's the thing. That's the trick. That's where they get you. You got to find the right therapist. Find somebody you trust. Theo Lewis, have you found the root of your anger?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. For me, I think just growing up and thinking about all the moments and experience where it felt like, okay, I'm not good enough, and just for somehow, some way, kind of letting the mind games take over, and then as a result, saying, well, okay, if that's the case, I'm going to prove it to you, and I'm going to prove it to you, and I'm going to prove it to you until until there's no more doubt, absolutely no more doubt. And it to me, it ties in with the anger because it drives you, it drives you to try to outwork everybody around you in any situation you can, especially a situation where you feel like you can win and you can come out on top. Yeah. But no one tells you how exhausting it is until you experience it yourself and how much it drains you. And how much it's not until, I won't say now because I don't want to insinuate my journey is over. No, like I feel like I'm, somewhat just getting started and probably need to restart because therapy is real. But just understanding that, you are good enough, you are more than good enough. And like, you don't have to constantly prove something to anybody. Once you prove it to yourself, you're good to go. Like the rest will take care of itself. And if it doesn't, then it's not meant for you. And that's okay, because that means something greater is. But it's hard to get to that point. It's hard to, just because you want to, I guess for me, like, not saying like I don't think I'm not good enough, but you want to get it. Whatever it is, you want to get it.
Right.
And if you know how to get it, you will do it. But I think there's a lot of times where, especially as of late, where it's like, you know what, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and that's okay. And I rather have that mentality now as opposed to my mentality, let's say 2 years ago, 5 years ago, where it's like, I got to outwork you. 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 I might not be the first one in, but you're definitely not going to see me be the first one out unless I'm finished. And you're going to know when I'm finished. you know what I mean? So it could be so addicting, that mentality. Addictive, I guess I should say. Addicting. Yeah, it's that type of mentality, but it's, let me be one of the first and hopefully one of the many to say that it's also tiring and be careful and beware, because it can get you in the end. So it's that I think that's where the issues for me are rooted in, just that feeling of you're not good enough. And why those feelings? You're more than good enough. Like, so, but like you said, therapy is real. Therapy, I need to get back into it for real.
I would say I'll be wrong if I say I don't get angry or whatnot. But I do, and I don't regret anything that happened in my life. But I know I've been upset at decisions I made in life, and that's what made me angry. Right now, when I think about it, why did I do that? Now it's kind of I want to build on top of that. What can I do to actually prevent that from happening again? What can I do to counter that? And that's where I relate to Theo. Actually, everyone else here is that competitive spirit. I want to be a better version of myself. What do I need to do to start working on that from there? So I won't go back to that. I'm not saying dark past, but I'm just saying those bad decisions. I make. So that right there is what fuels me to actually do it and stay hungry for it. I could say, working out, going for a run. I might not look like the most approachable person when I'm running because I'm angry, right? But I'm more so focused. I'm in the zone, and I'm using that to help push me through. Same thing like when I'm working, as a Marine or as actually an individual. I'm so driven. I'm so focused to reach my next goal. I'm using that. So that way I won't have the same mistake as I did before. And that's how I'll be able to channel that. and like returns that anger.
Okay. Some of the things that you all have mentioned is about learning yourself more, becoming more self-aware, and in that, learning how to heal from that anger, overcome that anger, or even channel that anger into something more positive. Has that helped you as men be more vulnerable in relationships, whether familial, romantic, professional, or whatever the case may be? Since Lewis is married, we're gonna go with Lewis first.
Hey, you know what? I'll keep it straight, simple to the point. It humbled me. I would say that it humbled me. You can't think the same way. You can't think as an individual. Now, you have someone else there. You can't do things a certain way. So I'll just leave it at that. It definitely humbled me, and I'm thankful for it. Yeah.
Okay.
So the question is, has anger and like dealing with the anger impacted my relationships, or learning myself impacted my relationships?
Becoming more self-aware, because from what I can say from my brothers, and Theo, I always say my brothers, but you're included in that.
Right on.
My brothers, I feel like, have always been guards up. No matter how many conversations I have with y'all, no matter how long we kick it, it's always a guards up situation. It's like, like Theo, even when I think my first deep conversation with you, I think you were about to graduate high school. We were talking about, you were trying to explain to me why you feel Jay-Z was the best rapper alive. And even in that conversation, it wasn't real deep. I think probably I have deep conversations just now, recently in the last 2 years or so, more with Joshua, but mostly growing up, and even sometimes now, I feel like the vulnerability that I experienced with y'all has not really been there. So it's been so I wanted to know, how has growing in your self-awareness and in who you are, and learning how you relate to the world and to family and in your professional lives and your spiritual lives, things like that, how has that changed your vulnerability? Or are you aware that you don't want to be as vulnerable? Or is this like a man thing of just you can only come so far and that's all I want?
So for me, yes, the journey of learning myself and becoming more aware has made me understand the need to be vulnerable in my personal relationships, right? But that vulnerability only goes so far, right? So again, with me, I always go back to this layers thing, right? So I can only be truly vulnerable and open up to really just one person, right? And that's hard, and that's that's something that's a work in progress. So I'll say it like that, right? So it's a good lesson, right? Because the more I kind of fight being open and vulnerable, the more and the more that I actually do become open and vulnerable, I see the benefit of that, right? So it's like a one step at a time type thing, right? It's a very slow thing, but will the guards ever completely come down? I don't know. I doubt it.
I agree.
I mean, I don't want them to you don't have to lower all the gates at one time, but I think just it has been and this is just me, my personal experience. It has been a lot easier for me staying in contact and being having open, whether we need to have a hard conversation or whether the conversation is just, hey, how's it going? It's been easier with the sisters. And with the brothers, it's you good? I'm good. Cool. Moving on. And that's that's literally how it's been. Oh man, what's going on? I did this, and this. Okay, cool. What are you gonna do tomorrow? This, and this. Cool. How's everybody on your side? Good. All right. See you later. And it is just well, okay. I mean, I'm not saying that it's important that we all cry together, or that we have to be on the phone calling on the name of Jesus and just like, Lord, if you could just help us move forward. It's not anything like that, but just having a deep how are you feeling? How are you doing? And being genuine in those responses. And I know that as men that I have experienced, y'all are not easy to talk to, because y'all just don't want to talk about nothing. Y'all can go in depth about LeBron's career, Kobe's career, MJ's career. But when I'm like, how are you doing? Oh man, I ain't got nothing to say. Okay. But
that's
yeah,
just how we're designed.
I just wanted to know, like, how has, now that Lewis, you're married,
Yeah.
and you have 2 kids.
Yep.
Joshua, you have a son. Do you feel that you have to, as you start to become self-aware, become more vulnerable, or are you learning that this is safeguarding you to help you in passing on what your lessons are to the next generation?
I feel like it's just like Lewis said, it's humbled me. I mean, it's nothing but I'm forced into nothing but humbleness, because I know that I have Joshua Jr. looking up at me. And if I want him to see a great leader, and I'm an alpha male, I believe I speak for us all when we're all dominants. Nobody will ever be able to walk over us. Well, even no matter what you say, it is what it is. If we're in the wrong, we'll accept it to a certain extent, and we're open for correction. The right way. But you'll never be able to disrespect us, or try to have us belittled in any way. But knowing that I have Joshua Jr. looking up at me, I know that I have to be careful, extremely careful about everything that I do. So it's just forcing growth. And I mean, I wouldn't look at it as a negative thing, but it's just forcing growth. Did I answer that right? I feel like I'm missing something.
No, I was
No,
just
you said it
asking
from your
about
experience.
it's
Huh?
so you're saying that from you being a father, you want to make sure that you present an example that your son can lead from, so that he has a good foundation, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He has to have a great foundation. I actually plan on here real soon. I planned on revealing something to the family in January of 2021 that's actually going to be in alignment of this legacy that we're trying to leave together. So yeah,
I'm
what y'all
sorry.
laughing at?
I'm sorry.
It's so funny.
Because
I feel like you just got exclusive.
you already said legacies already, so
You're
everybody
right.
already light
Your
bulbs.
surprises are not real, like,
They're not
sir.
surprises.
Man, hey, look, it's a
Your
surprise,
surprise,
man.
your surprises is more like a trailer. You know
Right.
what the movie's gonna be about.
Right.
You have an idea, but you say, "Hey, am I gonna see that movie or not?"
Hella spoilers.
Oh, too many spoilers. Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Oh.
Hey, I'm not good at surprises, so yeah, there it is. Yeah, we'll see.
I'm waiting to be
Yeah.
surprised in
Yeah,
January.
boom when it happens.
Yeah. We're gonna revisit that. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah, I want to be a great leader for my son. You know what I mean? I want to be able to promote greatness and positivity, in the best manner I can, taking advice and even reading. Like, I just started getting back into reading. I'm not a big reader, you know what I mean? But knowledge is everything. You know what I mean? The more you know, the better off you are, and just some things people can't teach you. You got to pick up a book and read something. You know what I mean? So, I just want to be a great leader for him. So,
Theo?
I'm thinking about your question, and it's kind of twofold for me. Like, one, relationships that I have, relationships that I want to establish, I'm being reminded more and more to tap into the vulnerability, because it's an asset. Thinking about growing up, I feel like not a lot of people said that or preached that. I didn't hear that in the music I was listening to, the shows that I watched. I definitely wasn't getting that from friends at school, because as soon as you get on the yard, we're ready to clown on each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, or if you playing ball, it's like, oh, your shit's weak. Like,
Yep.
and that's the last thing you want to hear. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And for me, that goes into the whole, you're not good enough. Well, now let me show you. So there's the cycle.
Yeah.
And I just never really thinking about your question, and to be brutally honest, like I wonder how different all of our upbringings would be if we saw, not just from our mothers and not just seldomly from our dads, but just like, what it means to be vulnerable, and how when you cry or when you hurt, it's not, maybe it's not always a bad thing. That release is good. I wish someone would have, taught us that more, because I felt like the only times I saw that is, a brother won a championship, someone caught the Holy Spirit at church, or somebody won a really, really big award and they happen to be the first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's not CJ got a promotion, and there's an extra zero in his check, or like, Josh taught his son to ride a bike. It wasn't those things, or like Lewis seeing his wife come down the aisle on wedding day. Like no one growing up, no one established enough to me that that's also being vulnerable, and that's cool, and that's all right. So learning now from some of my friends, especially this conversation, Christy, therapy, reading here and there, and just everything that's been happening with Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, what that means for communities, how that impacts us, how that impacts the world. Like, tap into that vulnerability, because it is an asset, and how that could lead you to some great things. And so, yeah, like, that's not to be too long-winded, but, I wish it would be really interesting to see if we had more teachings of vulnerability in our upbringing, and then what that could have meant for all of us as a society now. But thank God that we're starting to, someone get a little bit of a hang of it. So then that way, when we do have our children, we can plant those seeds in them. And then, Lewis is already doing it. Josh is already doing it, but at least we have the tools, are sharpening our tools now.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it'll be better, but it's interesting to I don't know, not relearn, but kind of to just, well, I guess you could say relearn that it's actually an asset instead of a weakness. Because I think, Leah, to your point, that's why brothers are safeguarded, whether it's maybe not just us, but, like, I think we're so ingrained to think vulnerability is weakness. Like, if don't look me square in the eye when I pass you, just give me a head nod and keep it moving. Like, no, like, no, I want to look you in your eye and ask you how you doing. I want to, just like I hope you do when you pass me. You don't see a threat. You don't see someone that's coming for yours. I ain't coming for yours.
Yeah.
I want you to have whatever you have, just like I hope you want me to have whatever I have. But for some reason,
Genuine.
yeah, exactly. But for some reason, like, I don't think vulnerability is taught that, especially to us, and not just Black folks, but people of color in general. So hopefully we can change that. Hopefully, this episode helps to kind of plant that seed and change it.
Yeah, this is good experience for me, because I don't think that it's ever been really put into words to better understand our relationships. Like, I knew our relationships were different, but to understand how or why. And I know that when you want to communicate with other people, there's a lot of things that come in to play when that communication happens. And it's not just a message sender and receiver with feedback. It's internal noise, past experiences, expectations, a script that somebody has planned in their head that somebody else is not following because they didn't get the notes, I think that this has been like a really good conversation for me to better understand that. I mean, I've never took it as a slight or disrespect or anything like that, as far as, because it's been really consistent pretty much across the board. But it's never been like any bad blood. If I'm like, hey, how things going? And you're just like, they're cool. And you're just like, okay. Yeah, y'all, that's my brother. Yeah, no, it was too many conversations. It's fine. It's fine. It's text messages. Cool. But what if you could see yourself, if you could see yourself in a couple of years, right? What would you want to tell yourself
You said how many years?
in a couple of years? Just like 1 or 2 years.
How'd I do?
No, you have to tell yourself something. You can't ask yourself anything. Okay. Okay.
Oh.
You have to tell yourself something. What from what you have learned in these last however long you've been alive to this moment right now, in a couple years, what would you want to be reminded of, or what would you tell yourself, either as motivation, as self-care, as whatever it is? What would you tell yourself?
For me, it would be keep going.
Yeah.
What if you're tired? You're gonna wake yourself up from a nap and be like, hey, get to work.
Keep going. Yeah. You're not done yet. Keep
Intestinal
going.
fortitude. You got the ability to keep digging even when you got nothing left in the tank. You got to keep pushing. That's what makes you stick out. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you more wanted. You know what I mean? Because you keep driving. You know what I mean? You figure it out. There's never not a way to get to where you need to go. It's all about how you get there and how you got there. And even when you got there, I mean, just like Lewis said, I mean, he uses his drive and his motivation to keep pushing to get to his next goal, meaning he doesn't get, stagnant and content at being whatever rank he is. I mean, he doesn't get content in whatever apartment or non-house that he doesn't have. You see what I'm saying? Like, he wants to get the big house. He wants to have the nice things. So he knows what's required. So keep pushing. You know what I mean? Keep digging. That's what I say. Just like CJ said, keep digging. DM, dig.
No, I agree with you. I would just add to it, but don't forget to take naps. Like, like
Naps are life. Let me tell you.
because this, we are all hardworking people, all of us, each and every single one of us. I would say this as a viewer and not being even related, just watching this, be like, okay, I get it. Every one of them grind, but as we're getting older too, I don't want to succumb to the grind culture. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be a victim of that and not have anything to show for it. So, we're going to keep digging, we're going to keep grinding, we're going to keep pushing, but we got to remember to take care of yourself in the process. And if that means take naps, take a nap. If that means you're writing notes saying, I love myself, I love the people I'm with, I love my family, I love God, I love, do that, whatever, as long as it's positive and it's healthy and it helps to get you to the next day, the next week, month, year, then I'm for it, So that's probably what I would say to myself too. Just like, hey, you are good enough. You will get there. You've been grinding for so long and you're going to continue to do so. But just remember, take it easy when you can too.
Yeah. I would say this stuff that, got me through and I'll still use this. Just a reminder, I said, remember why you started. Remember why you started. You don't want to be in the same place, from the very beginning. You're taking that change for a reason. So you always should remember why you even start, why you put yourself in that position.
That's good.
I'm gonna bundle all these up and put them together. I'm gonna watch this in like 2 years, and it's gonna be so much motivation for me.
Oh yeah, man, cut that check, cut that check.
Well, y'all, thank you so much. This has been such a great conversation. I have truly appreciated it. Not going to say names, but there were some people who were concerned that this would not happen. But
rude.
Oh,
rude.
Hold on.
I was like,
we can spill some tea. Like, what's going on?
I feel like they'll come through. You sure?
Who's podcast?
You sure?
Right. Go ahead, name.
Hey, hold on. Just say their birthdays. Hold on. Let me guess. Is it in July?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything, but I really appreciate y'all for coming out. Do y'all have anything that you would like to promote? Social media that people can follow you on?
Wait, hold on. I got something real quick. I got a very a fond memory that I've been waiting to get. I've been waiting to get all three of them in a room, just one time. So, hometown buffet. I needed to know who was there. Man, it's the funniest story, and I don't have the full story because I was so young, but I remember the pain. I remember the pain and what. And
I'm letting you know right now. I was a witness.
Oh no, it was primary. It was primary.
So I guess I was the culprit.
He set me up.
Yeah.
He said he was the main one that set me up.
It was too good.
Amongst getting, saran wrapped. We're not going to talk about getting saran wrapped. You know what I'm saying? But
you know what? That was, you remember that was building character. Think about it. It was building character. Look how well you turned out. You was building character, and you remember that.
I can't.
And you know what? We did it with love. We did it with love.
Wait, hold on. When you saran wrapped me, when I got saran wrapped like booty call, you know how that one dude got saran wrapped? Was that time? Were you talking? Or you talking about the wedgie? Because I don't know. Which one was better?
I mean, that should help for stability. We just want to test it out. Make sure
it all builds character. It
does. It builds character.
Look, all I know is that we had a great meal at Hometown Buffet.
That was good.
That's what I was remembering.
Yeah, the macaroni was slapping.
Oh yeah,
we all sat down and laughed. You had so much dessert that day.
So much dessert. We saw it too. Yeah. But
the board. You watching this?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. It's a buffet. You got to eat up.
Oh my God! No.
I don't think I have recollection of what y'all talking about. So,
would you guys mind sharing what happened? Because I remember standing up the whole entire time eating my food, so I couldn't sit down. It was painful.
Well, the food is that good on the buffet. Of course, you're going to stand up and eat it.
Exactly.
Ain't no time to sit down. Food was smacking.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I just remember.
So, Theo, what happened?
What happened? We had a good meal.
Why couldn't he sit down at the table?
I guess he said somebody gave him a wedgie.
Yeah.
So I'm an innocent bystander in this all, and just minding my business. And
nobody told him to buy his underwear too small. So I mean, hey, he did that. He did that. Hey, if they get him, yeah.
What?
They were my favorite Spider-Mans. I don't know if you guys remember that, but there was Spider-Mans with the red strap at the top of it. You know what I'm saying?
It touched the forehead too. Yeah.
So let me tell you. Nevertheless, we were waiting on Dad to pick us up, and I think Dad was getting his coffee, and Dad takes his time to do everything, right? So, get up in the morning time, drives 10 miles an hour all the way to school, and we got to go 15 minutes away, right? So we're waiting for Dad to come pick us up, and I'm just minding my business. I'm so excited. Can't wait to get ready to eat, or whatever the case. And I'm talking to Lewis, big fives in Pinot. Never forget it. Lewis says something about some type of basketball or something like that. And next thing I know, Theo came out of nowhere, grabbed me up like this. I'm talking about no feet nowhere on the ground. I'm talking about on the swings, right? I think it was it CJ that came after behind him. I'm telling you, they carried me like a stretcher. Theo had one side, CJ had one side, and I'm talking about my underwear looks like this on my face, and my butt was hurting so bad because my underwear ripped. I'm talking about it didn't just like slip,
Y'all are
it
brutal.
ripped, and I felt the rip. You know, I was young, so I ain't had no pubic hair. But anyways, it hurt. So it was like a rug burn. You know what I'm saying? So it was so painful and so intense. And Lewis just stood there and watched the whole entire time. Dad got there. I couldn't even say anything because I was afraid to get beat up when I got home for snitching. So I had to take that one. I had to take that one on GP. You know what I'm saying? But it's okay. I made it through it.
There's a lot of emotion that's coming out of that. I don't know if you really are you really over that? You okay? There's a lot of there sounds like there's a lot. There's a lot.
I can neither confirm nor deny. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm a new man now. It's okay.
Oh my gosh. Why are y'all like
healing
this?
is a journey. And the marathon continues. We're gonna be all right.
Marathon continues.
Yeah.
Why are y'all like this? I don't even understand. Okay. Anything else anybody would like to get off their chest before we go?
Now, big ups to you. Thank you for bringing us on your platform.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Anything that y'all would like to promote, social media, any events that y'all got going on, whether it be virtually or otherwise?
I would say, since I'm actually, in the recruiting field, if anyone would like to know anything about, military or Marines, you could definitely, hit me up on Instagram. It's ssgt.johnson, JOHNSON.USMC. And that's actually to help, individuals, more with scholarships that a lot of people don't know about. Actually, they help them for a very, early age. Just start investing in themselves. But that's if you want any information about it. But I'm only recruiting in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be helpful as well.
I don't know who is your production team, but those commercials that you're on.
Man, dude, you look like you should have been on Under Armour. Like, man, I know that guy. I know him. That's not LeBron, but that's my brother though. I know him.
Yeah. No, this is actually a photographer. I reached out to, and he's actually a Marine now. So yeah. So he was pretty good with the camera, and I wanted to put his skills to the test, and it paid out pretty good. So, I put him into the Marines, and he's doing pretty good for himself.
That's awesome.
Real good for himself. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. There's more coming on the way. I'll let you know that right now. We still in production.
I saw I think I've seen 3 commercials of yours. The first one I saw, I thought it was an ad, and I was like, wait a minute. That's my brother? Hold on, wait a minute.
Hey, Lewis has this like distinct walk about himself, like
yes, that's how I knew it was you because of your walk.
Oh man, there you go.
Been doing that for a long time too, man.
Yeah, I would never lay that down. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I'm always happy to talk about social media and event hosting on Twitter. So you could, add me, follow me, Theo_Mitchell, and just say hello, say hi, be a friend.
I almost forgot you were on Twitter. I gotta follow you on Twitter.
I haven't really got into Twitter. I don't know.
Twitter it's a lot of work.
That is Snapchat. I can't do it.
Twitter's great.
Snapchat's dying out, but Twitter, I like the communities that I'm in. I feel like none of these people actually work, and so they're on Twitter all the time. I'm
Hold on,
just
what you
like,
trying to say about
How does
Theo?
Twitter
Theo
work?
I have a job. Like,
Hey,
what are
that's
y'all
that.
doing?
Social media is my job though, so it's cool. It's
Yeah.
like
Like,
Yeah, you right.
they're like,
paid
oh,
to
I'm a
create this
full
content.
time so and so, and I have a part time job doing this, and I'm like, but you've been posting for 37 hours straight. Why? What is going on? Golly.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
I don't understand how Twitter works, to be honest with you. I think I tried
Just
it
like
one
any
time.
other, it's just like any other platform. You find your community and then you start conversing with people. It's just
Yeah,
like any other
no.
platform.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no.
It's just like, so Facebook is like that country road, and then Instagram is like the 2 lane, is like the 80 on in California.
Oh,
And
okay.
then like Twitter is like the Jetsons. Everybody is just going super fast. At like
That's a great
people
analogy.
people go to Twitter for like confirmation. That's how up to the minute it is in information. Like when there was an earthquake here, people didn't go to the news. They checked Twitter. Like, did y'all feel the earthquake? Did y'all feel the earthquake? Okay,
Oh,
cool.
man, I
There
guess
was an
I should go-
earthquake. Yeah.
I should broaden my social media platform there.
If you have time, you got to, I'm just saying, you got to dedicate at least 4 hours a day to it. If you're going to be on it. And that's just building. That's not maintaining. That's building.
Yeah. Right.
Joshua, you said you had something to promote? No? Yes?
No, I just promoting peace and prosperity. You know what I mean? Peace and and positivity to everybody. Knowing and understanding that focus on who's in your life. And make time for the people that's in your life. And if I if I don't say anything else, respect. Respect where everybody comes from, and respect that everybody's going through something or something, or at some given time in their life. You know what I mean? So I don't have anything else to promote except for peace and God, of course, love. You know what I mean? If you don't know God, get to know him for sure. He's an awesome best friend. If you don't know him, you know what I mean. Try him. That's a different one. Yeah. All right. That's good. Yep. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Take Space Podcast. I have been your host, Leah. Thank you so much to Calvin, Theo, Lewis, and Josh for stopping in today and having a conversation with us. We'll be live on Thursdays on Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully, I'll be able to have all these guys back Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. I appreciate y'all so much for being on. Y'all have a great one.